In the dead of a January night in 2026, the South Atlantic rolled black under a moonless sky. Aboard the Russian-flagged tanker Marinera, Captain Viktor Kuznetsov watched the horizon through night vision binoculars. For 2 weeks, the ship had run dark, slipping through the Shadow Fleet's invisible lanes. Oil from sanctioned Venezuelan wells, rerouted through ghost registries, bound for a buyer who paid in yuan or rubles. Kuznetsov knew the risks. He also knew the Americans were hunting. Far above, in the dim red glow of a P-8 Poseidon cockpit, Lieutenant Commander Elena Reyes locked the contact. "Target confirmed," she said into her headset. "Russian hull, Venezuelan crude signature. They're running silent." The order came back crisp from CENTCOM. Intercept and board. No warning shots unless engaged. The chase had begun days earlier off the Guyana coast, after Nicolás Maduro, once the loudest voice in Caracas, vanished in a blur of rotor blades and flashbangs. U.S. special operators had hit Fort Tiuna at 0300 local time on January 3rd. Maduro and his wife were zip-tied and exfiltrated on a Black Hawk before the palace guard could mount a response. By dawn, President Trump stood in the Rose Garden and declared, "The United States is now in charge of Venezuela." The words echoed across every wire service in the world. In Beijing, the Politburo convened in emergency session. Xi Jinping listened without expression as analysts laid out the damage. Billions in oil contracts evaporated, influence in Latin America gutted overnight. "This is not just Venezuela," one advisor said quietly. "This is a message to us, to Taiwan, to every red line we draw." The room fell silent. No one mentioned the word blockade, but the maps on the table already showed carrier groups repositioning in the South China Sea. Moscow reacted differently, cold fury wrapped in calculated restraint. The Kremlin issued a statement calling the raid an act of state terrorism. Privately, Putin ordered submarines to shadow U.S. assets in the Atlantic. When the Marinera was finally cornered, a Yasin-class boat lingered just outside sonar range, its tubes flooded but doors closed. A warning. Nothing more. Yet. In Caracas, the streets were unnaturally quiet. Interim authorities, backed by U.S. advisors, moved into Miraflores Palace. Delcy Rodriguez, now the face of the transition, met Secretary of State Marco Rubio in a classified room on Capitol Hill. The demands were blunt. Sever ties with Havana, Beijing, Moscow, Tehran. Cut the lifelines. Rodriguez stared back. "And if we refuse?" Rubio's answer was calm. "Then the next raid won't be surgical." Across the globe, analysts whispered theories in encrypted chats and dimly lit think tank corridors. Was this Trump's opening gambit to shatter the Axis, force Russia and China to choose between escalation or retreat? Would Beijing see the Venezuelan strike as proof the U.S. still had teeth, or as permission to move on Taiwan while Washington was distracted? And Putin, would he absorb the tanker loss as a cost of doing business, or would he answer with something kinetic in the Black Sea or the Arctic? On the bridge of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter that finally put a boarding team on the Marinera, a young ensign watched Russian crewmen raise their hands. No shots fired, no resistance. Just the slow drip of geopolitics turning into open confrontation. In Langley, a veteran case officer stared at the wall of monitors showing satellite feeds. Chinese destroyers drilling off Fujian, Russian subs trailing NATO convoys, Venezuelan oil fields under new flags. He exhaled smoke from a forbidden cigarette. "Welcome to the new normal," he muttered. "Tom Clancy didn't write this chapter. We're living it." Fade to black. The Atlantic kept rolling. The next move belonged to whoever blinked first. Need a discreet way to track your valuables? Check out Pinpoint Cards. Ultra-slim GPS wallet trackers the size of a credit card. Real-time location, long battery life, perfect for wallets, keys, or bags. Never lose what matters again. www.pinpointcards.com. Secure your stuff today.